All right. I'm with Blair Socci. Everybody, welcome to Walk-Ins. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. I love having female comedians on to talk about their craft.
I'm so glad. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How did you get into comedy?
Well, it's a funny story. I was not one of those people that was like, I've always wanted to do this since I was 5 years old. Like most of my friends. I just like fell into it accidentally. I moved to New York for grad school to become a novelist. And I had just started dating a guy who was like doing open mics and showed me comedy. And I had wanted to be a writer. And we broke up because I moved to New York. And I had started, writing for Split Sider, like interviewing comedians and stuff. And I was interning at some magazines, and I pitched and I became a fan of comedy like pretty instantly. I was like really passionate about it. Um, but my mind, hadn't even close to tell me that I wanted to do it. And like once in a while, I would like write a joke for my boyfriend or something, just like whatever. And then like one day in the shower, I pitched a story on Michael Che when I was interning at W Magazine, and he had just done his first week at SNL. And I was his first piece of press ever, and we became friends. And then like in the shower, like a couple days later, I just like had the thought, I should do this. And then I started pretty quickly after that.
I was waiting for you to be like, and then in the shower, Michael was like, you should really do comedy.
Oh my God, no, definitely not. Yeah, sorry if it sounded that way.
I was like, where are we heading with this story?
Oh yeah, that would be a really crazy way to open a podcast. You ask. I was just in the shower.
That's really fun. I want to know more about like your process. So has it changed since you started doing comedy? Was it always kind of the same? How do you kind of work through your material? How long have you been doing it now?
I'm a little over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and my process is pretty close to what it was in the beginning, because I'm someone who I was a writer before, and so I like very specific language. And so I'm someone that likes to write everything before, and then once I sort of have a pretty firm skeleton, I feel comfortable riffing on that and molding it. But I am not one of those people that quote unquote writes on stage, like, yeah, I like to go up there really knowing what I'm going to do.
And when you got into it, was your family excited?
Oh, definitely not.
I mean, I feel like if you were going to be a novelist, going to stand-up comedy is kind of equally just like, well, either way, you're going to be struggling.
Yeah, they definitely didn't want me to be a novelist either. So yeah, my parents, I think, thought that like going into the arts was pretty entitled. Like they have a very immigrant mentality. Not that they're immigrants, but that's just sort of like that vibe of just, work your ass off, like make a good life for yourself. Just like arts just seemed, I think, a little bit frivolous to them. So
Where are you from?
I'm from Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah. Where are you from?
I moved a lot. I was born in New York City and then moved like every year and a half.
Oh, wow.
And so I've lived all over America, pretty much only, but was in LA for the past 16 years. And then now I'm in Texas. But lived in Minnesota, lived in Connecticut. My we're really from like the Northeast, my family.
Okay. Cool.
So that's where they all are. And yeah, they too kind of it never occurred to me to do stand up or to be a writer or anything like that. I never thought it was a path. And then when I moved to LA the first time, I was in my 20s, and that, people were, that's how everybody made their living. And the kids even were kind of the second generation or third generation of people who had been in the arts and made a very good living. And so it was something that I was like, oh, people do this.
Yeah.
People can do this and survive. It's not
Right.
just like I have to cut my ear off and be like, Van Gogh.
Yeah, I know. It's been such a long road. I mean, I got on a MTV show when I was about 2 years in to comedy, and so that was really,
Which
because I
show?
it's like, it was called Ladylike. It was under the Girl Code umbrella. It only
Hmm.
lasted 1 season, but it was just like this bizarre thing. Like, I cold auditioned, like, I didn't have reps or anything. I was on break from my computer coding job that I lied to get. And I
Did you
definitely
lie about being able to code?
yes, I had expensive rent and I looked up like what I needed on a resume. I studied all the questions that would be asked in a coding interview and definitely did not think that I would get it, and I sort of just skewed like my real life resume towards that. And I mean, nobody was more stunned than me when I got that job. But I left to go audition during a lunch break. And of course, I was gone 3 hours because they were so late on the auditions. But then I did end up getting it and I quit that job. So,
So you never had to learn to code?
no, I did code. I was at it for 2 years.
Oh, wow, okay. So
Yeah.
what did you go to school? Did you go to school?
Yeah.
College?
Yeah, I went to UCLA and then I got my master's at the new school when I was gonna be a novelist. I finished my degree because I never thought comedy was gonna be my career. Like that didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Wow,
just
okay.
like, I thought I was just having some wild like New York experience.
Yeah, that's I can really relate to that as someone who just took a break from it and got back and was like, "Ugh, I thought that I would be able to like put this behind me."
Oh, comedy. You just started again?
Yeah, I took a break. I was at it for like 7 years, and then I got married, had a baby, and really it all happened around the pandemic, and so and I was writing and doing all these other things, and I kind of was like, maybe that was just like a nice phase.
That's so
And
cool. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So I got back up kind of hoping that I would bomb and that I would be like, well, that was a nice phase, 7-year phase or whatever it was.
Mhm.
And no, now I just want to do it all the time again.
Oh, that's great. That means you really love it.
I do. It's always been that thing that I felt like I too just kind of fell into it. Somebody dared me to do it. And I was like, all right. And it never occurred to me that you could really be a female comedian. Roseanne was, there were a few when I was growing up. But I remember the first time I ever saw, I think it was Whitney Cummings' Money Shot special. I was like, oh, you can do women can do this and make money.
Mhm.
And that didn't really occur to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, yeah, seeing how the career part goes.
Yeah, what has been after your MTV show, what's been kind of the ups and downs of it? Did you have any dark nights of the soul where you were like, I'm not doing this, forget it?
I mean, I haven't really had dark nights of the soul where I was like, "I'm gonna quit." But I have had many dark nights of the soul. I mean, like I think my last day job was 2018. So a lot of times, like even in struggles, I like have to be like, you know what, I'm making a living supporting myself, doing what I love. And instead of just being like, okay, why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? And my getting on a TV show like 2 years into comedy like skewed my perception, sort of, thinking like,
Mm,
oh, it's all gonna be this easy. And for some people it is, but I've been lucky. I mean, I work really hard, but I've been pretty lucky of how things have gone. I mean, like there were many years I was so broke, like working in temp. I remember having like a 9 to 5 in New York and then going out doing shows, mics all night, like just sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night. I'm just like, oh my God, I never slept.
yeah. Yeah, I love, I've had Adrienne Appalucci on here for a few times, and I love talking to her about when she was working like her temp day job and then doing the same thing and grinding at night. And like, what am I doing? This is insane. Never sleeping.
Yeah, that's how I guess you really love it. Like, and in all that time too, you're not even making money. That was like
Yeah,
not, I mean, it's really insanity. It's like some
it's
comics
insanity.
are freaks. It's like some sort of compulsion. And
Yeah.
then like, I mean, last year in the last like couple years, last like 3 years, like I was on the road 3 weekends a month. That was really gnarly because I just like pushed some dates because I was like, you know what? I just put out the special and I need a little break. I need to live to even have something to write about.
Yeah. Um, so your special came out, and are you generally on the road? Or was that just, you're not, are you like a road dog generally kind of all full time, or is it not really, what's your kind of,
I mean, it kind of has been like the last 3 years. Like, I'm not trying to do that. I mean, I'll always like go on the road, but I'm not trying to be one of those people where I'm on the road, probably 3 weekends out of the year.
yeah,
That's a little too much for me. I have shows in development right now. I'm always auditioning. So I'm trying to find probably a little bit more balance as I get older. I
y-
want to be able to go on the road when I want to and not
yeah,
have that be my only, sense of income or whatever.
yeah. And you worked with Veeps, right? Is it, do you like it? How has it been? It seems really cool that you can kind of chat, and like all this, the functions it has are awesome.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, I was part of their launch of their comedy division. It's like Live Nation's new streamer. A lot of, it's like a brand new thing. So
Yeah.
when I'm promoting it, a lot of times it's the first time people are hearing about it. But, it's not like other streamers that Live Nation is a huge backing, like obviously very established company. So that's nice, and, they were great to work with. I love the way it came out. I'm so proud of it. So yeah, it was a really good experience.
It looks gorgeous, and yeah, it's the streaming capabilities are really clearly Live Nation-esque.
Yeah,
It's definitely not like some janky new upstart.
yeah.
Yeah, that it's cool too that you can kind of, I don't know, I love the idea of being able to kind of buy those tickets whenever you want, or join when it premieres and be part of everybody chatting. And it seems like it streams, so the quality was just really, really high. It's just beautiful. Where did you shoot it?
I shot it at the Bourbon Room in Hollywood.
Oh, okay. Are you in Los Angeles now?
I'm in Los Angeles. I really wanted for my first special to be able to have all my friends and family there, and I'm so glad I did that because it was really fun, and that was just sort of the vibe that I wanted.
Yeah, you seemed very relaxed. You always seem like you're having fun, though. Even when you were on Corden, you seemed like
Oh,
you were
thank
just having a
you.
blast.
Thanks. It's funny you bring up Corden because I had been submitting, like, trying to find a set, for a while, and I mean, I think I probably started submitting, like, 3, 4 years in, and, I by the time it actually worked because it is just so I don't even consider myself a dirty comic, but to find a airtight, clean 5 minutes that you're just like, is going to be bam, 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 bam. It was so hard. And by the time I did it, I was like, oh, I'm really glad I didn't do this earlier in my career, because by the time I did do it, it was just no big deal. It was
Yeah.
like not stressful at all.
Yeah. Do you get nervous at all?
I do get nervous sometimes. It always surprises me when I do. It just depends on the situation. Usually it'll be something like I need to do well or something, or yeah, I mean, like, obviously for a TV set, yeah, now, like, I've done enough stuff where I'll be nervous before, but once I'm like 1 to 2 minutes in or something, I'm pretty relaxed. Once I
Yeah.
get going, I'm pretty relaxed, but I still get nervous before sometimes, especially if it's something high pressure or that means a lot to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I always wanna know how people deal with it, 'cause I have stage fright, and it goes away, like, 1, 2 minutes in, but I've never been able to really, like, conquer it. I remember early in comedy, I would go into green rooms, and comics who had been doing it forever would just be sleeping on the couch, and I'm like, "I wanna get to that point where I'm just sleeping before a show."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, I know a lot of people that have been doing it so long and still get nervous. I mean, if I'm just doing regular sets at the Comedy Store or something, I'm not nervous, but, it's just when, something really matters, I think it's completely natural, it just means you care, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It is like such a, I've had so many comedians on this podcast, and we always talk about like you said, it's insanity to do. It's not a normal thing. You're doing it. The grind is relentless and not for everybody. And I'm often not sure it's for me. I don't know. It just seems like it takes a long time for it to kind of pay any dividends, and that you are only hearing about the stories where it does, usually from people. You're not hearing about all the people we lose along the way, or drop out, or do it for a while and don't really break through. What's your feeling about being someone who's been doing it for like over a decade now? What do you think it takes to really have that stick to it?
Well, I think that comedy is something like it's just some fun thing in your 20s, but once you get in your 30s, it's like this is my real life. Like, am I gonna be able to buy a house, have a family, like,
Yeah.
and the amount of people that are doing it now, I mean, you really have to go hard. I have recently learned, like, I've always been someone where I'm like, I have to be really true to myself, and so I wasn't really like doing the social media end of things.
Yeah.
Um, and I recently was like, I just thought, I'm gonna do this my own way. Like, this doesn't feel authentic to me. And then I just sort of recently realized, oh, this is just the way things are going. I don't want to miss opportunities or have people that may or may not be less talented than me be getting things because they have more followers. And that's what people are looking for now, because it's just business. They want more eyes on whatever project they're having. So, there's things like you have to adapt. So that's something, I'm getting someone to like post all my clips because like all the work is already done. But I mean, I that's not what I wanted to do, but like that it has to be something I have to make a change for, for success and for business wise, or just things
Mhm.
like that. I mean, I think there, unfortunately, to be a comic now, you have to do so many things. It's like you're not just doing stand up, like you have to be professional at marketing, you have to know how to edit, have to know, I mean, like, just you have to act, you have to write, you have to be a TikToker, you have to do so
You
many
have to have a
different things.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really crazy. So I do think, like, if you don't want it bad enough, like, I don't know how you can even stick. And honestly, I respect those people that quit, because why do all that if it's not what you really want?
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny as you say that. I was watching The Wizard of Oz the other night
I love
with
that
my
movie.
I know, with my in-laws and my daughter, who might be too young to be watching that movie. I was like, I don't think she should see the flying monkeys part. She's not even 2, but she loves the Lollipop Guild. She's obsessed and just
Yeah.
wants us to play that, clearly. And we were watching that and we were talking about how back in those studio days, you had to be good. I was like, these people were so talented. You had to be good at singing, at dancing, they were all triple threats, all of them. To even get
Oh.
into the studio system, you had to just be proficient at all of those things because they were all dancing and singing in like every single movie. And this was
Oh,
back in
that's
like
so interesting.
1939. Yeah,
I've
they
never
were.
thought about that because have you ever read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo?
No.
You should read it. It's an awesome book. I just read it recently. I think they're adapting it. Reese Witherspoon, she adapts every popular book, but
Yeah.
it's like
The
that thing where
Seven
they would just
Husbands
like
of Evelyn Hugo.
they just pick up any like hot chick at the diner and like give them a 3-year deal. But I do get what you're saying. That's so
Maybe
funny. That was
I
my favorite
wonder.
movie growing up. And my mom would be like, I couldn't watch The Wicked Witch or The Flying Monkeys like when I was 13 years old and you were 3 years old and you would go in my cabinet and rewind the Wicked Witch parts and she thought something was like wrong with me because she was afraid. And then I would have like nightmares about it, but I like couldn't look away.
Yeah, that I feel like my daughter is similar in that way. She got obsessed with Home Alone over the break, like over Christmas. And now she's like Home Alone and she's like Chuck Berry because she loves the Run Run Rudolph song. We were on a plane and she's like, Chuck Berry, Chuck Berry. We're like, what is she talking about? And we didn't realize she wanted to watch Home Alone. I was like, oh, she wants to watch Home Alone. Why is
She
she
has good
crying about
taste.
Chuck Berry?
That's a good
Yeah,
movie.
it's such a good movie, but there's that part where, he gets all shot up by the Tommy gun and she loves that. I'm like, I don't think she should be watching this. I think she's too young. We're like, should she be? It's always that weird thing as a parent. We're like, should she be watching this? Probably not. Probably too young for this, but she seems to now she's into the Wizard of Oz and wants to see when the tornado part. We always skip through to when it's color because she gets kind of bored in the beginning with the sepia. She's like, "What is this?" And what is this old timey no color? And now she loves the tornado part. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, she
Kids
likes
like the
adventure, your
excitement.
girl.
Yeah, she does.
I really want to get married and have a baby. What's it like doing comedy with a baby?
She's at that age where it's actually like a good time for me. I feel like I was actually recently just like DMing with Lori Kilmartin and I was like, how did you do this when you were, because talks about being a single mom and she's like, I had a lot of help. I'm like, how'd you do this when she was little, when your son was little? And she's like, I had a lot of help. And she was saying, honestly, now it's like a little bit more challenging because he's a teenager and they need you around more at night, especially because they're up and teenagers. And I was like, okay, so I've got a little bit of a window where
Yeah.
because I can put her down and go out and do, or my husband can, and I have my husband who's very hands-on and helpful. So it's, the hardest thing I think is like the line I try to walk is talking more about my experience as a parent and respecting her privacy as a kid. I know most comedians probably don't even consider this, but in the like age of social media and all that stuff, I still feel like she shouldn't necessarily have things that are like haunting her forever. That I talked
Yeah.
about on stage or whatever. So that's like that's a weird balance. I don't necessarily want to use her for material. And I get really uncomfortable when even on social media, not even comedians, just even normies or people who are influencers use their kids as props. It makes me I'm like, I'm just not. Also, I am in the weird like culture war and I know too much about all the like AI and all the weird crap coming out with images and like I'm like, no, I don't want to. So that's the hard, I would say the harder thing is not necessarily balancing it. Although, like last night, I did a set, came home, was up late, just writing through some of the stuff that was not working, and finally got my head, like, it's like the minute my eyes close, she will wake up whenever that happens, and then I'm like, I
Whoa.
have no sleep. So that can be a
Yeah.
little challenging.
That is challenging. Wow. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I struggle, like, I don't even love, like, putting my family online now. It's weird. It's different than what I used to feel like. Like I even did a podcast a few days ago and they were like asking me the names of my family, and like later, and I gave them all the names because he just kept asking me. He was just like joking around. And then I just felt weird like that I even said all of my family members
Yeah.
like first and last names on a podcast. Like, and I think about that too. I'm try to be really cognizant of what I say about my family. Like even if a joke pops in my head, I'm like, I don't want to say anything that I'll regret, even if like I mean it in, a nice way. And I have even my best friend and like many other friends don't think like that at all. They just say they're like all's fair. And for me, it's
Yeah.
not like that at all.
Yeah, I'm actually struggling with that now because there's a joke that I want to make that could be, it's dark, and I've made it before and it gets laughs, and it's like not funny because it's true, but it's also why it's funny. But it's a joke about someone in my life who passed away, and they have kids, and so I'm like,
Oh, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that feels, even though they're not my kids, so kind of fuck them. But like I don't know. I've never really. That's always been a weakness. Like I feel like I've never really had that killer instinct that a lot of people who are successful have.
I don't know. It's I don't know if it's a killer instinct though, because it really does have to feel natural to you. Otherwise, you're not going to feel good about it.
Yeah.
Like and so I think that you're going unfortunately, even though it could be a good joke, you're going along with what's authentic to you. I'm not going to feel good putting that out into the world like I'm just a sensitive person
Yeah.
versus some people aren't. And I do think it gets messy for these people. Like they may not necessarily have super close relationships all the time with the people that they're shitting on, or they have an understanding where those people are so cool where they just are, it's not a problem.
Yeah. It's hard to, I think, there's a great line in I think it's right behind me. Joan Didion has this line. Hold on, I'm gonna grab the book because I love her.
Is it from the White Album?
No, but I have the White Album sitting right here. It's from Slouching Towards Bethlehem. It's from the preface, which I absolutely love. And she says at the end of it, she's like, my only advantage as a reporter is that I am so physically small, so temperamentally unobtrusive, and so neurotically inarticulate that people tend to forget that my presence runs counter to their best interests. And it always does. That is one last thing to remember. Writers are always selling somebody out. And I'm like,
Yes.
it's so true. Because I'm like you,
Yeah.
I'm a writer first. That is like my that comes more naturally to me, I think, than even being a performer. And there is that truth of like I run into this balance of even in writing.
Yeah. I know I do too. But I do know that when I have gone against that voice in my head that says like I don't think that I'm comfortable with what I just said, it plagues me after, and then it disturbs my sense of peace. So I do just try to listen to that, because like the thing is, it is true, and it is difficult, especially in this age of podcasting. I mean, you'll say things because it just feels like you're having a conversation with a friend that maybe you wouldn't want to have on the internet in 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that
So
was something that I had this article that was it was like I put it on my Substack and it went viral. It was about how I regret being a slut. And I was just looking at this time in my life and really how, the lie, like I got sober 10 years ago and it really just the lies I told myself. A lot of it was a cope, I think. And kind of the idea that I could sleep my way to sexual empowerment and how destructive it was and how, I got it from the culture, not just like from my own brain.
Yeah, of
And
course
how
you
I
did.
think women have been kind of lied to in that respect. And so I wrote it and it went viral and everybody was like, I don't know if my daughter should read this. And then I wanted, at publishers were like, hey, there's a book here. And I was going to do kind of a book about, I don't know if my daughter should read this. And then I was pregnant at the time and knew she was a girl. But the more pregnant I became, the more I was like, I don't know if my daughter should read this. I don't know if I want this out there forever, particularly not before she's old enough for me to really talk to her about it. Like these stories of different aspects of my life that were more or less gnarly. And so I just abandoned the project completely. And I probably could have made a decent amount of money writing that book.
Right.
Maybe I'm an idiot.
No, you still can if you can absolutely still do that should it come back to you that it's something that you all of a sudden really want to do. But I don't know, it is in an interesting age right now because everyone theoretically is a public
A
person
brand.
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and I have to say like if I wasn't a comedian, I don't think I would have social media at all. But it used to be I think way back when like kids really only had to deal with this type of their parents past if they had parents who were like rock stars or like big
Right.
time actors or
Yeah, like your
something.
dad is Tommy Lee.
Yes, exactly. And I seems like a lot of those kids like still love their parents for because I mean it is hard to be like the full expression of yourself as an artist when you're constantly thinking about that. You know what I mean? About the ramifications of like your child. It is
Totally.
yeah.
I have family members who kind of struggle with this and that because they want to be creative, but they have older kids. And it's like they said to me the other day, you're lucky you are already in this position and your kid doesn't already have like one idea of you that then if you decided to go kind of put yourself out there publicly would embarrass them or make them they grow up with it as opposed to it being this new thing. So I think you're right. There's a lot of truth to the idea that they just grow up with it and they get used to it and they have to adapt to that too, with their parent being out there. But I do find that there's already so much like I'm gonna have a lot to answer for. I never thought I was gonna have a kid either. I just didn't.
Yeah,
I was
but
40. I was 42 when I got pregnant, so I
well,
thought
really?
that.
That's so
Yeah,
inspiring to me. I find that really inspiring. I'm loving like all this girls sort of like my generation, the generation above me having kids. Seeing them do it and be comedians because like I mean, of course there were the ones that came before us, but now it's becoming like more common, especially that I think for the most part, dads this generation are more hands-on than the
they're
ones
way more
before.
hands-on. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And there was a whole crew of us, like Sarah, Rosebud, Whitney. I think all of us had kids within the past. I mean, they all had kids within the past, 6 months.
Yeah. It's been really interesting. Whitney, like all these people, Esther's pregnant. It's really cool watching it and it just makes me be like, oh, okay, I can do that too. But yeah, it's a weird thing and I think everyone handles it differently. Of course, men, I don't know, it's very odd experience.
Yeah. I do think like it's and two, I'm still kind of in a position where I'm not getting paparazzi'd, so I have the option of kind of not showing my kid. If I knew my kid was going to end up in photographs, I'd probably be like, F it and just put them out there and have control over it.
Oh,
I
that's
don't,
really interesting. Yeah, I mean, like Rosebud, Rosebud's my best friend. She like
I love
she
her.
filmed her entire IVF thing on her Instagram. And it's just so funny. Like we can be so different in that way. Like I froze my eggs like years and years ago. And I remember like telling my mom and my mom being like, don't tell anyone that. It's just like such a different it's like such a different generation, of things.
It's so weird though, Blair. I'll talk about this on stage, and the like gap is, and even millennials seem old now to me. I'll
Yes.
see millennial content where they're like, I'm like, you guys aren't. I'm Gen X, so I'm like, you guys
Oh,
aren't even that old, but they're acting like they're the old timers online
yeah.
now, which is very strange and disorienting to me. I'm like, please stop acting like you're old timers, but I get it because the younger kids have been born into this, and it is, like you said, a different generation completely. Like, I literally watched a woman who's all about like home birthing, give birth basically on Instagram. And I'm like, isn't that weird? My grandmother, she had 10 kids and there's not a single photograph of her pregnant. Not
Oh, wow. Yes, that's
one.
crazy. Yeah. That's really
She would
interesting.
be, and the audience, if they're young, they're like, no, that's not weird.
Right.
Like, I live stream myself taking a shit today. What's weird about this?
I
Like
know.
they don't think it's weird.
Yeah, I really resisted getting TikTok for a long time, and then I got it, and it's actually my favorite social media to consume. And but I see the craziest shit on there. Like some of these like girls I follow, they'll be like film themselves sobbing, and I'm like, I could never, but I love it. It's fascinating to me, because it's fascinating social media and the culture and like us as a society, we've all become sort of performative. We're all performing our lives to some degree, you know and to see how curated people are versus the other approaches where people put it all out there, and that's honestly just as shocking sometimes. But that's what I love about TikTok. My algorithm is so pure and wholesome. Like I don't have any stand up on there. It's like chiropractor, baby goats, pit bulls, babies, makeup.
What do you put on TikTok?
It's not what I'm posting. That's just what I consume.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, all my TikTok friends are like, the algorithm is so good on TikTok.
Yeah, because I don't follow anyone on Instagram, so I don't do any scrolling on there because I just found it too
Mm.
much of a time suck where it would be like an involuntary thing. Like I wouldn't even be intentionally pulling it up, and I would be like, I don't want to be intaking this much information about this person I played volleyball with 20 years ago who lives in North Dakota now.
Yeah. It is funny the stuff you can glean even from, I was thinking about this the other day, just how savvy we've become in observing people's social media. So my cousin's wife a year ago or a year and a half ago, like changed her profile picture to just her and the kids. And I was like, huh. And I was like, that's interesting. And then it was just her. And I was like, they're fucking separated. And then lo and
Yeah.
behold, I hear that they're separated. And then it's like inevitably a picture of her doing CrossFit with new boobs. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and then she's like, the divorce is final. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, man. But
Oh, you
people are
can
so
sense the
sensitive to
energy.
that.
Yeah, no, you can sense the energy immediately. Like someone who would never post starts posting like hot pics, like, and that's the thing. Like, that is the thing. Like, if you post your boyfriend a lot, if something goes down, like people will know immediately. But I guess that's just something, if you are someone who shares it all, that you just share that.
Yeah. That it is funny though. I was thinking about just how savvy the audience has become. We've all become these like little detectives without even becoming aware of it. The like small, minute change in someone's avatar triggers this like, huh.
Yeah, you're like, I have a hunch. What's going on
Seems
here?
like something's like all isn't right. Yeah, the minute
Yeah.
the husband gets cut out of the like family picture, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Trouble in paradise.
Yeah,
And then
it's
you're
interesting.
like Twitter kind of made me, so I resist hating on it too badly. Made me in the sense that it gave me all the opportunities to meet editors so that I could have a career as a writer, and then it's been like a giant game of improv ever since. But that I like that there are no gatekeepers in that sense, other than like these big tech conglomerates who, you know, can censor and like decide who to elevate or not, but or China. But I do think it's still ultimately better than when there were just a few gatekeepers.
Yeah, you know what? It is nice to the industry seems to have been to truly be in free fall the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just constant mergers, constant layoffs. Like, you know, you're in one place and then they get fired, someone else. I mean, they just got bought. It's just, it is nice to put agency into the hands of people. Like, if you really want to be successful on social media, you can do it. You just have a willingness, you have to have a point of view and a willingness to aggressively put yourself out there in a way that honestly just feels disgusting. But but
It does.
but like it is incredible. I mean, there's so many people successful now. Like I'll see some people where I'm like, I truly think they are one of the worst comedians I have ever seen, but I will respect 1,000% anyone with work ethic and someone who found a way to cultivate an audience. Do I necessarily think it's great for comedy? No, but I will be like, that's impressive. Whatever I think of their talent, I am impressed about what they did and built for themselves, and I'll respect that. You know, because a lot of these people would never have a career. Even podcasting, like there's people that have great podcasts, and because fans are so loyal to those people that they get to know through years of listening to them every week, they have a stand-up audience, and it's not that they're necessarily a great stand-up, you know, but more power to them, you know, like they have an audience and they have people that care about what they have to say, and I will respect that always.
And I think as it's like that kind of theory of abundance and I've seen this even just in Austin as like all the muscle, what did you call them? Like the muscle
buff
bros.
guys?
The buff guys moved here. But the comedy scene now, it's like there's room. It just becomes more abundant. Now there's more of a halo effect. There are people coming into town. You can easily do like 7 sets in a night and at all the different places that are popping up, and more people are having shows, and there's just more of a comedy scene than so I ultimately think that even though it's like all siloed, I think it's that whole idea of like it's better to have 2,000. I'm not sure who came up with this theory, but there's the theory that it's better to have 2,000 devoted fans than 2 million who just kind of like scroll through your content.
Oh, 100%. I will see that all the time. People, they won't necessarily have a huge following, but they have like a rising podcast or something, so their fans are really devoted, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, it's such a like it is true though, the mergers and everything. I'm even just being in the writing and media like you were. I was at Playboy, and then that guy, it was like I feel like every single platform or place that I've gone or whatever, it's just been like merging. It's just nuts.
Folds gets bought by someone. They hire in new people, that changes all the asks, and there changes what they're changing their target audience, because for the new people's existing advertising, and because it's
Yeah.
crazy.
It
Yeah.
does make you feel disgusting. That is very true. I was watching a whole clip with Louis where he was talking about how bad he thinks it is because he can see comedians tailoring the algorithm shaping the comedian instead of the other way around. Just how it starts to it is that sense of like audience capture, your audience and the algorithm and all these things start to influence you in subtle ways because you're chasing the likes instead of the actual thing you're trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's definitely watering down comedy. I mean, even when you go to a show, I would say that the heckling has increased dramatically in the last year or two, because what the public is seeing, who may or may not already have a relationship with comedy, as they're just being saturated with clips on Instagram that's crowd work. And so they think that's what comedy is. So, if you're really into what your act and writing and stuff, and you go and you want to prepare, the act, you wanted to deliver the act that you have prepared, with so much work, and they're just wanting to like yell back and forth with you because that's what they think comedy
Oh,
is,
that's really
you know?
interesting. I was wondering why. I was like, is Austin just like love crowd work? Is this just a crowd work town? But you're right. It did not occur to me that this is really what they're ingesting online from everybody.
Yeah, and I read some statistic. I don't even know what the percentage is. It was high. It was like 50, 60, 70% or something. I don't know the number, but like when people go to a comedy show, it's their first time a lot of times. So, if they're seeing that online, like I have a neighbor who always asks me about like crowd work guys, like, have you seen them? I'm like, I don't follow anyone, so I don't know. And then I'm like, oh my God, that guy I did open mics with, I'm like, you think he's funny? You know what I mean? But some people, contrary to that, are incredible at crowd work. And so
Yeah.
now they have an avenue for a career. And really, that's awesome. That's great for them.
Yeah. I always see Sam Morrill, who I love. Like, I think his joke writing is some of the best, but then his crowd work is incredible too. Like, I saw something the other day that I was like, fucking Sam.
Yeah.
He's just so
I
quick on his feet.
He is. I love Sam, especially for just, like the straight club style. Like he is someone who he's been doing it for so long, and he really is I think you can tell he's so deeply influenced by Dave Attell, and has such integrity with the precision that he puts into writing. So for him, I know he has like blown up his audience through his crowd work, but for me, like I'm like, oh, he still maintains the integrity completely with his act, and
Yeah.
he's just using that as a vehicle to get people out to his shows for his act that he puts so much effort
His
into.
joke writing is amazing. It's
Yeah.
like he really, yeah, he's definitely like that kind of, I feel like, old school comedian joke writer.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like a classic comedian.
Yeah, I mean, he works his ass off. And a lot of
Yeah.
people, there's even people, that what you'd say is like a classic, and you're like, it just sounds, corny or whatever. But he always has a really unique spin on everything.
How did your voice that you use in your act, how did that come to be?
Oh, that's interesting. You mean like modulation or what?
Yeah.
It's just sort of natural. Like, I don't know, people always talk about my voice. I don't consciously use a different voice in my act. I mean, I do go into like probably my like WWE
Yeah,
voice.
yeah.
But
I
yeah, a
think it's
lot of
just a
times.
lower octave than
Oh yeah,
what when I hear you talking like in an interview.
Yeah, I'll go up and down. I think that probably started when I was really nervous when I first started, that I felt like I had to be really authoritative. Because people always comment on my voice. But it has all worked out because I, do a lot of cartoons and stuff now. But yeah, that's the thing that like trolls will say to me. Although people are always like, that's you want a voice like that to be a comedian.
Yeah. No, it was more like it was interesting. I was listening to your special and I was like, I feel like I would listen to her more because it sounds more masculine. Like, I'm like, is this the internalized misogynist in me?
Oh,
where I was like, these jokes land differently because it is in like this WWE wrestling kind of voice. I don't even know how to articulate it. It was like, it's so different. It's just so
oh,
cool.
thank you. Yeah, I think that's probably internalized misogyny, but also but it's also me just being silly and sort of natural. Like, I that's what feels natural to me. Like, people are like, is that something that you're calculated doing? I'm like, no. And it's not like I talk like that the entire time. It's just like moments of it's like I'm using my normal voice, and then like for emphasis or for jokes or when I'm doing someone else's voice or something like that.
It's so great. I was like, it's so I don't know. It wasn't fun. It was a
Thank
fun
you.
special.
Thank you
What's
very much.
your I think everyone should check it out. It's on Veeps and it's just like I love when I see a stand-up comedy special that's like clearly well written jokes, but it's just different. It was fun and you obviously were having a blast, which I really
Thank you.
appreciate.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me. I My favorite performers, it's good writing and also unexpected performance.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm watching incredible comedians, and because after you've seen so much comedy, like sometimes I'll be watching and I'll be like, that's an incredible joke, but I'm not laughing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'll
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like say to myself, whoa, that's a great joke, but it didn't make me laugh. Like, I think there's something I am personally drawn to, wild people, like Eddie Pepitone, where you just like never
I
know
love
what's
Eddie.
gonna come out of their mouth, and you're just everything's shocking. Like Rory Scovel, but not shocking in like the shock jock way, shocking in that you're like, wow, this is really odd, but I am having such a great time. So I sort of, as you can see, uh like to go to more of a silly type of comedy.
Yeah, no, it's so fun and it's I that's actually like a really interesting point about a really well-written joke that you don't laugh at cuz I've had that experience and is it just like could there be a different delivery that would make me laugh at that amazing joke? Probably.
I think it's honestly the audience laughs at a really well written joke, but it's when you have just seen so much comedy, like you can just see where it's going, or even if you can't see where it's going, you're just like, you get numb, not even just from the sheer volume of what you're
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
doing comedy every night.
Yeah. Yeah, I sometimes wonder too like I I have a hard time discerning when something feels hacky to me, but it's like sometimes the low hanging fruit is just the funny joke that the audience laughs at and they find it surprising. And I'm like, why do they find this surprising?
Yeah,
But
I
again,
mean,
it's like, I don't know if it's just that you're numb to that. That's like how your brain works as a comedian, is that's where you would go. But I take it for granted that not everybody thinks like that.
yeah, well, I think there's a difference between hacky and simple, because sometimes the most simple thing is the
Mm,
most funny. Like when I watch Nate Bargatze, I am just stunned. I'm just like, he made, I think sometimes he gets the things that some comedians would just miss because they're like, no, that's too simple. And you're like, oh no, sometimes simple is the most funny, and
Yeah.
then there's other people that you watch and you're just like, oh, that's hacky. Like everyone could have seen that. That's a meme.
Right. Right. But everything's a meme now.
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
I'm like, everything's a meme. We're all
Yeah.
memes. What's your
Yeah.
biggest defective character?
Oh, honey, how much time we got?
As much as you want.
What's my biggest defective character? Um, probably, probably in terms of comedy or just in life.
In life or comedy, but whatever you want to answer that question with, the question is yours.
Comedy has probably been social media. Like, I think I could have been a lot bigger at this point had I been in that game already, like putting out the stuff the work is already done. I just need to
Yeah.
put it out
Feed
there.
the
But
algorithm.
yeah, exactly. As a person, my biggest defective character, I think sometimes I struggle with forgiveness, and that's something I pray about all the time because I really want to be a forgiving person. But I talk about this in therapy all the time where I'm like, okay, well, I think some of the like those scenarios, those certain ones where I worry about it, where I'm like, why do I still feel resentment? Like, I don't want to feel resentment. There's also just a natural, sometimes you grow apart from people, like you don't have to keep every relationship. Uh, I mean, it's not natural to keep every relationship as we grow and evolve and move on through different points of our lives and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But I would love to I mean, I'm Italian. I would love to let some things go a little bit easier because
Yeah.
I'm a pretty gentle soul. So I approach people, I think, with a lot of sensitivity, sort of anticipating how my behavior or words could affect them. All scenarios. I mean, and look,
Which is ironic being a comedian.
yeah, and like I'm not acting like a saint or anything here. I am far, like, not saying I'm like whatever, some perfect person in any way, but like when someone wrongs me, like wrongs me, and so they'll give me like a good apology. It's hard for me to let go. Like I'm like, oh, my trust is broken. I yeah. So that's something I'm working on, and that probably stems from not having great boundaries when I was younger, and like feel like letting people walk all over me a little bit too much. So then you kind of overcorrect, but I'm not religious at all, but I have like a very I pray a lot like with God, and I'm always praying like let me forgive, like let me empty out that, those blockages inside me.
Yeah. I love that. What's your biggest asset?
What's my biggest asset? Damn, that's crazy. These I feel vulnerable proclaiming these things about myself. Almost more vulnerable saying my asset than my defect. Um,
I think that's normal.
yeah,
Most people find the asset harder than the defect, which is sad, and I also understand it.
yeah. I think I'm smart. Like I like that about myself, and I think I'm very curious. Like I have a real drive to always like just a natural curiosity and desire to learn and improve, like, and I get like interested in a lot of different things all the time. I've always been like that since I was a kid. I guess I don't
You were
know.
the youngest of and had older brothers, right?
Yeah,
How many older brothers did you have?
I had two older brothers that are 11 months apart.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I didn't have any older brothers, and I probably could have used them.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's good to have older brothers as a girl.
I guess, I don't know, like,
Uh,
I grew up the masculinity and, like, my father's, like, a very, like, alpha, masculine man. Like, I grew up thinking that a lot of my natural it made me I mean, I love my guy friends and stuff, but ultimately it made me into, like, a hardcore girl's girl. Like, I cherish my female friendships so much, and I think about when I was younger, just growing up in my house, like wanting my brothers to like me and to feel included. That if they said like something I liked or that girls liked was stupid, like I thought a lot of just female things were not cool, just
mm,
on the
uh,
whole, because of growing up in that way. And like I grew out of that so quickly once I we were all out of the house. And I
uh,
and I was like, "Wait, that's not how I feel." Like,
yeah, that's interesting.
but it did expose me, I do have quite a literacy on a lot of male things like, sport, just uh all that stuff.
Yeah, and probably insight into like the psyche.
Yes, I do think so, but now as an adult, like, I wish to God I had a sister. Like, when you're an adult, having a sister and, like, my girlfriends truly are like my sisters. It is just, like, such a family that's the type of closeness that I do pity men that they'll never experience female friendship, uh, because it is, like, I think the most incredible thing.
It is.
They'll never know the depth of the friendships, but like
Yeah,
I like my girlfriends now that are adults and having kids and stuff that have sisters. It's like they just kind of run the family, all the family events. They always get to like do everything together. My brothers, it's like the wives run the show.
right, right.
Yeah, so
Well, this has been so fun getting to know you, and
yeah.
I look forward. I hope are you going to be in Austin anytime soon?
Right now, I'm coming for Moon Tower, but I would like to start going more. I would love to make it like a regular thing and
I
start
think a
getting
lot of
up
people are
there.
doing that.
It just looks really fun, and I would like to, be a regular out there.
Yeah, I saw Jessica Michelle last night, Singleton, and she's like, I think I have to start coming here like once a quarter at least. I'm like, yeah, it would be so easy to do. It's such an easy flight from LA, and you can run around and
I know.
be
I
in.
just need to figure out a place to stay because it's like I'd like to go for just like a week at a time and chill. And like, I've always wanted to like go float down the river. And every time I go, I'm always there for like 2 days and like prepping for a show or something.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I can offer you
Oh,
always a
I
room
didn't say
here.
that. I know
No
you
one
have a
wants
baby.
no one wants to stay here though because we're like way out in the burbs, so it's a hike. So, but you can always stay out in the quiet burbs if you need need some
I mean, I
reprieve
think
from
that
the
sounds
city.
great. But thank you so much. It was really fun to meet you.
And where can we find you?
Please, I'm on all my socials are at Blair Socci, BLAIRSOCCI. And I would love for you to check out my special Live from the Big Dog on Veeps. The link is in all my bios for social media, so it's really easy. Also on
We'll
my
put it in the description here too.
yeah, it's also on my website, blairsocci.com. So many places to find it and would love to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
Thanks for having me.